Welcome to Sailing Avanti. We are Gerard and Jacqueline, sailing our 41-foot monohull Avanti around the world from Cape Town, South Africa.
This week we're going to be taken out of the water, also known as hauled out.
We're just busy prepping for our haul out, and sometimes these little boat speed sensors get in the way of the slings. So if you're unlucky, then they break them with the slings. It actually happened to some friends of us, so it's quite daunting to take out the sensor and put the blanking plug in when the boat's in the water. A lot of water obviously squirts into the boat, but if all goes to plan, it's not a big drama. But as you can see, our speed sensor is quite dirty. It has fouled up quite a bit, and you could see it normally took a few miles before it actually started reading speed, so it did got stuck. So at least now we can give it a good clean and put it back in.
It's our first time being lifted by a travel lift, and Gerard and I are a bit nervous. We're going to be on the hard to mainly renew our anti-foul painting, and while we're there complete a few other jobs before we go sailing over the Pacific Ocean in just over a month's time.
While Avanti is still hanging in the slings, they pressure wash most of the growth off. The places where the paint looks like it's off completely are the areas where we'll double up on the anti-foul this time and make sure we give her enough anti-foul so that we don't have to do this again soon. The paint we use is self-polishing, meaning it comes off in the water when sailing, so that the growth goes off with it.
It's also our first time being driven to the hard. The hard, I believe, is named adequately. Life is hard on it. No water, no plumbing. In some places you have electricity. And it's hot. It's really hot, with no cool water to jump off the boat to cool off in. I guess we're having a dry January, or rather Avanti is having a dry January.
We waste no time and start with a job list immediately, since time on land is costly and uncomfortable. So it's day 2 on the hard today. Yesterday they pressure cleaned the hull, started sanding the hull, and I also sanded and cleaned the sail drive leg, as well as started disassembling the prop. So the prop blades are basically off and they're much cleaner. I just used a drill with a wire brush. They still need some finishing, but at least the bulk of the growth is off. So I still need to polish these nicely. Today I'm starting to prep a few areas that needs a little bit of extra attention on the hull. Putting some epoxy primer on there and maybe a little bit of fairing. So today will be a lot of sanding and a bit of painting. Well, basically for the next day and a half. I think tomorrow we plan to put on some primer on the hull, so that we can apply the anti-foul in about 2 or 3 days from now. Start with that. I also I'm trying to do like the winches at night, so the winches are in much better shape after we serviced them in Cape Town 2 years ago about. So it's going much quicker than the first time. The first time they were really well, a little bit neglected, so it took quite a lot of time to get all the grime out, but this time it's quicker, and I did 2 of the winches last night, so hopefully 2 per night. we've noticed that there's a little bit of water always dripping like from the keel once we from the rudder once we take the boat out of the water. And I've actually tried to open the area where the drip is. It's not a lot, so I thought it was a little bit of water in the rudder, and I actually found that there's a drain plug underneath all the filler, but it was quite loose. So, and when I took it out, the first part of the threads are pretty much corroded away. So they've welded a nut inside the rudder when they built the rudder, so that you can screw this plug in. But the thread part is corroded away, so I think that's where the bulk of the water is actually leaking in through the drain plug. There is one other spot that I thought might be a leak, where it looks like they've repaired the seam weld. It's a stainless steel rudder, but I've opened that up and it looks pretty good. So I will just make sure that there's no holes here. I'm just going to fill this again with some epoxy filler and make sure it's all good. And then what I'll do is I'll put a new plug in and I'll put some decent sealant in with it that will probably solve it, and we'll put filler on top of that in any case to conceal the plug completely. Just mixing some epoxy or fairing epoxy. So the keel was on the ground in Kariakou with the cyclone, so we scratched off a lot of the paint, and yeah, so I'm just trying to fair it a bit and then to make it look a bit better. Some of the old fairing also came off. I'm just trying to blend it in, and then we'll paint it with epoxy and antifoul.
When we left South Africa, we bought 40 kilograms of flour, and we are down to the last 3 bags at the moment, but I think it's officially old. I've tasted the yeast. The yeast we're using, also still from South Africa, is still fine, but this bread is hard, and it didn't rise almost at all. It actually makes it like a knocking sound. Probably kill someone with it. So no more bread, South African bread. I have to actually find local flour, which sometimes I've heard is a bit tricky to find some good stuff. So thank you, Snowflake, for giving me a year of good bread.
So I'm busy servicing another winch. This is one of the bigger ones, and I prefer doing it on the hard because there's all sorts of small parts that can fall into the sea if you do it on the water. And as we've seen, it's not easy to find spares in Colombia. So yeah, this one will be taken off tonight and given a clean. Sorry, parts in Panama, and then yeah, it should be good to go again. The nice thing about Shelter Bay Marina's Hard is that there's a cruisers workshop that's free and open to all cruisers. There's a nice workbench, or actually 2, and there's lights, so it's much better working there than keeping the parts on the boat and doing the dirty jobs on deck. Lots of very small parts that easily fall overboard if you're in the water. So important not to lose them. So we first disassemble the winch, and I put it in some diesel. I normally use kerosene, but not that much available here, so we have diesel on board, so I just take some diesel from the tanks. That just dissolves the old grease and the grime. So then I just clean every part with a toothbrush. After that, I just dry it a little bit to get most of the diesel off. Then I just wash it in like soapy water, hot soapy water, just to get the diesel completely removed. Otherwise the diesel will just dissolve the new grease. So after the soapy water wash, I just dry it with a cloth, and then it's ready to be re-greased and assembled again.
We're getting ready to put on our first day of primer, and luckily we've got a very nice breeze keeping us cool today.
So we're just busy with the first patch priming of the hull. We're just applying a coat of primer on the kind of critical areas. I've also bought some epoxy primer where we've removed all the anti-foul. I'll put that on, but this grey ones are for the places where there's still anti-foul, and we want 2 coats, so just the waterline and all sorts of little blisters we'll be covering.
It's day 4 and I'm getting ready to paint the primer. I'm very excited. I love painting, so whenever I get a chance, I tend to do the painting. So primer day today.
We had to choose a product that's compatible with our old anti-fouling that we put on in Cape Town. In Cape Town we put on Interlux or International Unipro, and this weared off quite quickly, so we also wanted to put on something that's more durable. We ended up choosing CJet, and the recommendation was to prime most of the hull to make sure there's a good key for the new anti-foul. But at least we didn't have to remove all the old anti-foul before putting on the primer. We used CJet 015 as the underwater primer, and the 2-component CJet 039 as the new anti-foul. Today I'm starting to service the seacocks. Some of them are quite stiff and stuck. They need some encouragement to sometimes close. So we've got these old Blake type ones, Blake's valve. So yeah, I just need to take them out. It's like a plug valve, and then use some grinding paste to just work the seats a little bit to get them smoother again, and then just grease them and I'll put them back. We've got 8 in total, so I need to get cracking to disassemble them.
And while Gerard is busy with the seacocks, it's almost 4 o'clock and the marina actually has yoga. So I'm gonna go breathe after a very hard day of painting. Well, I don't know if my arms are gonna be able to keep me up after painting over my head all morning, but time to go breathe.
Today I'm very excited to actually taste Panamanian craft beer. We don't see a lot of them in the shops. It's normally just Balboa or the normal Panama national beer. So there's a few craft beers, and I spotted these. They've got frogs on the cans. I think La Rana is actually a frog and Dorado is golden, so I think it's the golden frog. This is a Belgian style like wit beer, as they call it, or blanche. So yeah, let's see how this one tastes. This has got 4.5% alcohol in it, and the can size is a normal 330 milliliters can, and in the shop this is about $2. So normally the Balboas, the normal beers, are about $2 when you drink it in a restaurant. So in the shop these are the same price as the restaurant prices for the normal beers. You can see it's nice and cloudy, so it's not completely filtered. So yeah, cheers. it's really really something else. So much better than just the lagers that we've been having here. I'm not a super Belgian style Blanc or Witbier fan, but this is actually really good, and it's quite light, but it's definitely better tasting than the lagers that we've had. So I think in terms of a rating, in terms of size, cost and price, I would give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Cheers. Next week we continue ticking things off our long job list. Jacqueline goes through the canal as a line handler on another boat, and we have some paperwork that we have to sort out in Panama City. Please remember to subscribe or like and comment to help us grow. Thank you to our Patreons who support the making of these videos. You can join them by clicking on the link in the description below.